Alright, what's going on, guys? It's Chef. Background's some Only Up. Honestly, Only Up is just a nice background game at this point. Yeah, so, Twitter is, like, literally a dumpster fire. I mean, it has been a dumpster fire for quite some time now at this point, but it just gets, it's amazing how many different ways they can actually make the site annoying and just all around just not intuitive to use at all. It really makes me wonder. It is a skill set. Like, ruining things is definitely a skill set. I couldn't ruin something this bad if I was trying to ruin it. So, apparently, you can now hit a daily limit for how many tweets you can see per day or something. I have no idea when it like resets or whatever. You're basically thrown in jail. I remember people would get thrown in jail for like just tweeting too much and interacting with the site before. You would get thrown in Twitter jail. That was a thing, but mostly that would happen to the most addicted and honestly the users that need the most help. But this whole Twitter thing is kind of odd. Number one, because when we're explained like the reasoning for these things happening with Twitter, we don't really know what is and isn't true necessarily, or if there's like any ulterior motive to them doing these things, because usually it's always just a little bit more at least than what people publicly say. So it makes you wonder if this is really being done for the, you know, quote, data scraping. Apparently people are using and compiling like data and shit like that into like spreadsheets or whatever and somehow like using it maliciously or something. So they're trying to prevent that from happening somehow. I don't know. Obviously I'm not some kind of engineer. Even the people that are running this shit don't really know how it works. Now, I talked about this shit before with Twitter Blue. I'm a firm believer that I think that social media overall, it is a good thing, but it is terrible for your mental health, like just over a period of time. You have to think of it like you're taking a dot. Damage over time. For every second that you spend, every tweet that you read, all of it, there is just a little bit of damage that you take every single day. And I talked about it before about like the horrible things that I see whenever I'll wake up in the morning, right? Ah, what a beautiful day. And then I open up Twitter into literally live leak death. Like shit that should be illegal, not safe for life type of shit. Just terrible, terrible shit. And a lot of people can relate to that. And it's like, usually these algorithms will point to the fact that like, oh, well, you view these things, so we're gonna press these things to you. I promise you I don't want to see this. I'm literally hitting not interested. I promise you I am not interested in seeing the greatest gore. Is it because I'm watching horror movies? Is it because I like posts with like a film discussion? I don't understand why it thinks I'm so interested in watching people fucking die. So in a sense, with the way that these, you know, algorithms are and shit like that, it's also like pressing you kind of in a worse direction. Even though it's trying to craft itself to your, you know, tastes and things, the taste can kind of be assumed. If you recommend it to me and then I didn't hit not interested or I didn't interact with it, the system can just assume like, I'll try to recommend it to them again. They didn't say no. It's like, it feels like the way that the algorithms work, it's very, very adamant. It feels like it thinks it knows you better than you know you. How would you have an entire timeline apparently tailored to your exact taste, and I can literally scroll past so many things with zero interest? It's not that good at its job. It's definitely off. If something terrible happens, I'd like to be updated on it, but like, I don't want to see terrible things every— does that make sense? So that's where the algorithm really like kind of fucks you. I was already like kind of weird on the social media thing for some people. Like some people make it very, very unhealthy. Like absolutely sitting around all day looking at people posting all the highlights of their lives and shit like that is definitely not the best thing for people's mental health, because at the end of the day, nobody's life is all sunshine and rainbows. There's shit going on in the background all the time. That's life. Everybody's aware of it. But people don't present that way a lot of the time, which is normal because people don't want people in their fucking business, but everybody knows what it is. They're alive too. So some people are perpetually online, and this is coming from a guy that is literally living on the internet. Like, I want to live and die here. It is the place that has accepted me. It's where I belong. This is my home. With that said, that doesn't mean that I have actually managed to use Twitter and get thrown into Twitter jail like a lot of people that I know. I think some people could definitely benefit from a limit. Now, like a limit to how many tweets you can see every day, depending on whether or not you're like verified or old verified or like Twitter Blue. I don't know the exact numbers at this point. I think for like verified Blue and all that shit is like, you can see like 10,000 tweets a day or something like that, which I mean, I don't really know how many tweets I go through a day, to be honest with you, but the vast majority of people that are on the website are not paying for Twitter Blue. You can't really doom scroll all day anymore with this new limit. That sounds like a positive, but at the same time, there's also like a big negative here. I don't know. On one hand, I want to help people like not have such a terrible addiction to a lot of this shit, because it is really, really bad for your mental health. It really is. But I also don't want to demonize social media, because social media, it definitely has more of a positive than negative. Net-wise, it's a massive positive. Information going to people is absolutely super important, and you don't want it to be like bottlenecked or have information withheld from people. It comes down to people like, you know, needing to do it in moderation. But at the same time, I mean, I'm one to talk. I don't do shit in moderation. I do everything, anything that I'm interested in, I go full balls to the wall. So now there's a daily limit. Now, I have never hit the daily limit or whatever, whatever. I don't even think regularly I'm, you know, scrolling thousands of tweets every single day. Like, I get off a lot of the time. Like, I'm not constantly on Twitter. I feel like a lot of people that aren't using Twitter are just like kind of whatever about this whole thing, and they're like, yeah, just get off of social media, touch grass. All in moderation, okay? You should consume social media, but also consume it in moderation. Going too far one way or the other is just, it's bad. It's just no good for you. So now, basically, information is kind of like, if you're somebody that keeps up with a bunch of news, you're obviously not verified. You don't care about paying for this shit like most normal people. You got other shit you're spending your money on, you know what I'm saying? What if there's information that people need to see? Like, it's just very, very odd to me. Like, then you hit your daily limit and it's like, well, no more updates on this terrible shit going on right now. Some wild shit's going down in your area and you can't know? I don't know. Now, Twitter shouldn't be your only source of information, but it's also kind of some of the most raw information you can get. Now, obviously, I mean, there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation in that whole process, but I mean, that's the entire internet. That's not specific to Twitter. Would want to have some kind of updates, like news updates or local updates for anything that's going on, like air quality and shit that's going on out here. There's a bunch of like smoke and shit. If I use Twitter to get that information and then I hit my limit, I wouldn't know any more about it. At the end of the day, like, I don't know if it's about actually like data scraping or not. Now, that could be kind of like the quote intention, right? Like, that could actually be the reason for it, but they can also be very aware of like compounding effects. And as a result of this, in a way, they do benefit from limiting those tweets, because then it becomes a thing where you want this information and the thing will pop up like, oh, you're restricted. You hit your limit for the day, go outside, touch grass. You really do need that information. And they know that. So it pushes you yet again to go and pay for, you know, Twitter Blue, which is still a service that just, they're trying to add value to it, obviously, as you can see, but they're doing it in the process of like literally destroying Twitter at its core. I mean, you guys see my activity on Twitter. I don't usually interact that much. That's just kind of how I am generally. I don't really interact with shit and watch movies and shit and just, you know, do my own thing. I'm not doom scrolling all day. It just feels like it's another way to kind of bully people into paying for some shit that they literally do not need. And since it was something that people didn't really need when they first introduced it, they're trying to make a whole bunch of reasons why it's useful by making the non-paid version of the website's function basically just complete shit. Just make it very, very limiting. Now, they do say that it's a temporary thing and it shouldn't last forever. How many people do you think actually bought Twitter Blue yesterday with those, you know, things, those limits? Is there somebody genuinely sitting there at work like, fuck, I gotta scroll again, I have to scroll, and then they go and buy Twitter Blue? I don't know how many people, but I can guarantee at least quite a few people probably did actually go and buy Blue. And if the company sees that, whoever is seeing all these numbers sees that that worked in some way, shape, or form, I don't know. Now, the thing is, do they get a net gain in new Twitter Blue users because they don't want to deal with the limits, or are they hurting the regular user, the majority of the user base, so badly that they'll just go somewhere else? I mean, just in my mind, if I got limited on Twitter and I was somebody that needed to scroll, I mean, at that point, I would just go to TikTok. Could you imagine if TikTok limited the amount of times that you could scroll through, like flip through all these videos and shit? Like, it's just odd to me because I just feel like it's a complete net loss. Trying to convert a small portion of free users into paid users, just gonna have a net loss. There's no way that they're actually benefiting from it. The weird thing is that it always feels so like oddly experimental. They just go, I'm gonna go and try this certain thing out, see how it works out, instead of like thinking it through like a lot of companies do, where they like sit around the entire time like worried about making a decision or changing anything. It's always just discussion and talks about things changing and nothing ever changes. Now, while it's kind of interesting, I guess, to see you know, them go through with all of these different weird decisions, and it's interesting, I guess, blatantly obvious why a lot of these things are not acted upon. 'Cause a lot of them are just straight up bad ideas, or they don't work out in practice. Some people are like afraid that this could be like the beginning of something where everything just starts getting limited and everything has to get like monetized and you have to be like a premium user literally on every single platform. Me personally, I don't think that this will last forever. It seems like it's too stupid. It just doesn't make sense. Oh, also, UFC event last night, man, there were some upsets. I mean, holy shit. Anyway, let me know what you guys want in the future in terms of games and shit like that. Pretty much done with this game. It was just a nice background game, and I realized that I could talk pretty comfortably while playing this game. Thank you guys so much for all the love on all these videos. It's been such a fun time playing this game. Let me know what you guys want in the future. Let me know what kind of games you guys are playing at the moment, you know, what you're looking forward to. July is actually a slow month in terms of releases, but August is nice. Off the top of my head, August has the Texas Chainsaw game, which will be fun. Nice casual game to play. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, something I've been looking forward to. I don't even think it's going to be that popular or anything, but it's kind of like a successor to Jet Set Radio, if you've ever played that. Definitely go and look it up. It's great. And Armored Core 6. September has started. Starfield and shit. That's gonna be crazy. A lot of people say that gaming is dead and shit, but I think a lot of like the big battle royales and shit like that aren't like breaking new records and things like that, like at the tippy top type of shit, but gaming is absolutely not dead. There are so many games out there, and I mean, we just had a gem just looking at a game like this. This game had no business getting as popular as it did. Anyway, thank you guys so much for all the love, and yeah, it's been Gem, guys. Later.